Smoking dope, Devin Kenny. Ham on the block, oxygen, sugar, rice, tobacco, cotton, human labor, made into stocks with wet nursing, forced breeding, or raising livestock, and with no decrease, runaway slave catchers became the police, whips and chains inducing slow streets, and best are made fast like floaties, and worse, but first, slave labor created the Wall Street in NYC, in cross country, in Tulsa, 50 years post-emancipation is a black wall brand of burned to the ground, cause the folks like these, no chains on neck, nor chains on feet, screaming, all lives matter, while our lives need attention because of pogroms in the street, and the gunshot ringtones that go so hard, and that go so damn deep, breaking bad habits, get really bad, messing with, getting to the madness, to make something out of nothing, more than these alive, cash on deck, or work a check, and put a gun to your face and say you bound to respect, and I guess I deserve a rest because of the tone of my flesh too, right? I guess I deserve a rest because of the tone of my flesh too, right? I'm too hyped for casual chats on the subject, exclusive content produced at a premium, like Louis Azizamil, but I'm no comedian. Some of these things is just hilarious. If I don't laugh, I'll cry. If I reach for my comb for a total road, if I reach for my phone, I just might die. No questions asked, just tears on asphalt. Concrete suits, sleep, bare chains of cemetery grass, y'all. If I don't laugh, I'll cry. 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 If I don't laugh, if I don't laugh, I'll cry. Ha 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 If I don't laugh, I'll cry. But ain't shit funny. Ha 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 ha. 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 If I don't laugh, I'll cry.
You gonna dig this?
Oh yeah, perfect. All right, let's go to that all important time of the show. Once again, my favorite part of the show. Who that? Fire in the booth. And tonight we got something for you. I'm excited big. I'm excited about this one, you know. I got a feeling about this one. And we sell the man in the house. Rest in peace, man.
I know you gonna dig this.
My shoes now, my hammer was first. Bulletproof the whip I used to take my grandma to church. I went gram for gram with the work, hand in hand on the first. Everybody who hated now was a
fan of his first.
Stripes I earned from the bosses, whipping deuces till them hoop these
Turned into Porsches.
You gotta be careful. Ill. Told her my phone was dead. She wrote a number on the bill. Look, fix your furniture.
I just bought a new 450 from my man. Just came from Atlanta.
trunk for? He just got back from a
Road trip.
We ain't driving by. I brought Fleet with me and he been down the slide. We ain't driving by. I brought Fleet with me and he been down the slide. We ain't driving by. I brought Fleet with me and he been down the slide. I am more, heard 6ix9ine testified. I ain't surprised at all. Walk-ups, my nigga, we ain't driving by. I brought Fleet with me and he been down the slide. My nigga did 12 years for letting iron fly. Left when he was 16, he came home.
Zion size.
My doctor mad that I wouldn't let him operate. I bounced back and I just made more money than my doctor made. Violating you, getting the surgeon and the doctor. They sound like a helicopter landing all the noise my chopper make. Ask if it's a problem, they won't answer me back. I'm courtside in Portland, Carmelo Anthony back. Really just came to see my plug, I will handle the sack. I'm smiling like Anderson Paak when he hand me the packs. My nigga pull up in a gray station, hop out, fake A6, told Flea you gon' be rich. You just gotta
Stay patient.
My bitch looking like a young Sinead Lathan, sitting ringside watching Tank Davis. Johnny Dang chain bracelet.
TV Johnny.
I'm eating, then they can't take it. About to drop my album and the impact on
Shake pavement.
If it's smoke, 4 goons pull up with K's waving. A lot of bullets thrown like when Brady played Peyton. Rock the designer to my drawers, nigga sliding to the mall, but ain't finding this Dior, nigga. We was in the trenches selling China by the store, window watcher in the trap, Mac 90 by the door. In Houston, riding down Westheimer in the car that cost more than what you signed for. Admire from afar. The door in Houston, riding down Westheimer in the car that cost more than what you signed for. Admire from afar. The door in Houston, riding down Westheimer in the car that cost more than what you signed for. Admire from afar. If you the door in Houston, riding down Westheimer in the car that cost more than what you signed for. Admire from afar. If you niggas run up on me, then I'm firing this rod. Chopper set you fuck niggas on fire. I'm the god, nigga. That's why niggas not fucking.
YouTube is far more than a hidden camera prank show or embarrassing family video showcase. It's a sketchbook, a jukebox, cutting room floor, and more. In this essay, I chronicle various remix techniques showcased there and draw connections to analog modes of artistic production and dissemination. Today, the proliferation of free, cheap, and pirated audio, video, and image editing software has facilitated an influx of techniques from experimental musical composition into the terrain of online video. Unfortunately, our methods in cultural studies for interpreting the proliferation of digital media techniques has drawn heavily from postmodern theories such as those of parody and pastiche, which has tended to overstate the novelty of these phenomena and erase analog precedents for them. Genres like Chopped and Screwed of Houston, Texas, and Cumbias Rebajadas of Monterrey, Mexico, are prime examples of DJing methods as a forerunner to digital audiovisual techniques. Rather than drawing a causal relationship or a pattern of influence, I'll demonstrate how the sonic and visual genres of YouTube not only share similar modes of post-production to analog remix genres, but also their political implications. By putting the methodologies of hip-hop and electronic music in conversation with theories of the image, I'll show the necessity of considering the sonic within contemporary media politics. In our hope to understand a rapidly changing cultural landscape, there's a gap. To fill it, I propose to begin an account of ciphering as a social practice and media technique that emerges in Black response to settler colonialism. Ciphering is originally a term from hip-hop, referring to MCs rhyming and beatboxing with one another, showcasing new styles, some of which are later recorded. In cryptography, the cipher is an algorithm functioning as a lock or a key. Thrust into new social and political relations, the Black subject learned various social codes for survival and produced her own. Ciphering in hip-hop is spelled with a Y. Recorded media began as a pale comparison to the live listening experience, but it was able to persist and develop further because it had characteristics that would later make it indispensable. Eventually, engagement with the recorded, the facsimile, the in-between medium would become as much a part of life as experiencing things live. The limitations or impoverished quality of the sound would become a trait, not a liability. Over the decades, recorded media would improve and gain portability. In the late 20th century, prior generations would start to become skeptical or dismissive of the next. This pattern proceeds as follows. Streaming is better than MP3, is better than CD, is better than tape, is better than 8-track, is better than vinyl, is better than wax cylinder, which pales in comparison to live music but has qualities of portability which are desirable. Hithostyle suggests that the condition of the images speaks not only of countless transfers and reformatting, but also of the countless people who cared enough about them to convert them over and over again, to add subtitles, re-edit, or upload them. Images used in memes being low quality shows how much the data has been reinterpreted, and how much energy has been poured into them collectively. The embrace of the degraded sound is like the embrace of the poor image, which can be appreciated on a formal level, but also as a metatext for contemporary life. The meme is a text about the script of day-to-day existence in late capitalism. The function of the poor image is similar to how black cultural products are able to speak back to the conditions, both affective and material, made by white supremacy, for those who are not beneficiaries of it. Before the co-optation of virality by advertisers, memes also had this function, not just in still images, but in video as well, and in video, one is able to explore sound. The repurposing that occurs in hip-hop and other genres that arose from black cultures of the Americas and the Caribbean doesn't bear as close a resemblance to détournement or Jamestonian pastiche as some theorists are wont to propose. The constant repurposing and remixing online isn't either. Charles Mudede, in his text The Turntable, analyzes how this tool, a repurposed object robbed of its initial essence, sets the foundation for hip-hop production and also relates to intertextuality in rapping. To replay a record with your hands is different from playing an instrument with your hands. The one object, the turntable, says to the hand, "Don't touch me, for I must complete my cycle and fulfill that which is recorded on the 12-inch. The other, the musical instrument, says to the hand, "If you don't touch me, if you don't pull my strings or strike my keys, I'm nothing. I'm a useless object." Turntablist techniques originating in hip-hop, like scratching, the merry-go-round, and even the invention of the queuing function of the crossfader by Grandmaster Flash, were all means to use the records improperly to create something new. Scratching involves two faux pas, touching the record while it plays, and pushing the record back and forth against the needle to create electroacoustic noise.
Making it scratch.
DJ Kool Herc's merry-go-round, which became the foundation of many genres that would come after it, involves playing only the drum breaks, the bridge section of the song, which has only the drum section improvising and no vocals, and mixing between them, using multiple records or going from one break to another. And the crossfader, which allows for creating mixtures of records, but also allows the staccato or abrasive sound of scratching to become more pronounced. Scratching most often involves both manipulating the record with one's hand and the crossfader. As Mudede writes, a thing, Kant, or implement, Heidegger, or commodity, Marx, that is repurposed does what it is not supposed to do. It is made by the hands of a manufacturer, Kant, an artisan, Heidegger, a laborer, Marx, to perform and literally disappears into a specific task. But the repurposed object ends up doing something else. Think, if you will, of a film projector, which is used to show a movie. That is its purpose, to show a movie, not to make a movie. A filmmaker uses a camera for that. And yet, this is what a turntable is forced to do. Could the art forms of, or all of, black cultural life be read like a repurposed object? Can the speaking implement, the instrumentum vocale that exists between the beasts of burden, talk back? Enslaved Africans were counted as property and stripped of almost all means to conceive of themselves as anything but, yet something survived, something crucial, and it mutated throughout the generations, sustaining people. Orlando Patterson described the totalizing powerlessness produced by chattel slavery as social death. This status continued to the present through the legacies of slavery, the retaliation of the Reconstruction period producing Jim Crow laws, and the new Jim Crow era of the present, which includes discrimination educationally as well as economically, along with the continued devaluation and destruction of black lives in a variety of ways, mediated and otherwise. After reading Frederick Jameson, I would see the hip-hop methodology as the soulful counterpart to postmodern pastiche. But soul, its name a reinterpretation of a Western concept, is too potent to be considered the other side of the coin. De Boer and Kool Herc were doing something different. The counter-term for early 1970s downtown NYC art, with hip-hop beginning at the same time, but in the boogie-down Bronx, South Bronx. See where I'm going here? South Side of Chicago, South Bronx, downtown Manhattan, South Side, South Park. What happens in the global South? The embrace of the fragment, the displaced, or of the relatively degraded by black subjects would continue into the 21st century in meme culture by people of many backgrounds across age, race, class, gender, and other identifiers. Returning to the theoretical work of Hirostaro gives insight to viral imagery and time-based media, which usually are poor in quality. These images express all the contradictions of the contemporary crowd: its opportunism, narcissism, desire for autonomy and creation, its inability to focus or make up its mind, its constant readiness for transgression and simultaneous submission. This has to stand in contrast to both parody, critical, and pastiche, neutral. Whether we're thinking about the ambivalence behind the appropriation used in online remix culture via memes, or the almost animistic impetus behind sampling in hip-hop music, neither is adequately addressed or summated by Frederick Jameson's analysis of the postmodern condition. Pastiche is, like parody, the imitation of a peculiar or unique idiosyncratic style, the wearing of a linguistic mask, speech in a dead language. But it is a neutral practice of such mimicry, without any of parody's ulterior motives, amputated of the satiric impulse, devoid of laughter. Pastiche puts us into a field of stylistic and discursive heterogeneity without a norm, which doesn't describe the current state of things online, where new challenges and the visual code of memes are relatively ossified, as new modes come into being and then are adapted by the many, only to become stale in a matter of weeks or months. As pastiche fails to hit the mark, one must wonder if postmodernism is the lens through which hip-hop and subsequent genres can best be understood, and ditto for the genres of contemporary seen online. In hip-hop, house, techno, and other black urban-originated musics, which allow the practitioners to reconnect with the spirit of previous authors through recorded media, divorced from the oral traditions that had been means of transmission before, we see a return of call and response, a forefronting of rhythmic innovation, the public outdoor dance, and an emphasis on communal spirit in the block party or jam or cipher. These forms are not pastiche, but could be read as a metaphorical anthropophagy, an animism translated through the objects that are abound in late capitalism. Jace Clayton, aka DJ Rupture, has argued that the sonidero and cumbia is proximate to the masters of ceremonies from the 1960s and 70s parties in U.S. cities, who would become the MC in hip-hop, and is linked to the soundboy and Jamaican sound system culture. In other words, vaquero, sonidero, cowboy, soundboy. Some view cumbia's tropical skank as the missing link between upbeat salsa flash and the dubwise languor of reggae. But to make the story even richer, the godfather of ska, Laurel Aitken, brings it back to America, too. In the 1950s, we used to listen to American rhythm and blues from New Orleans. Everybody used to dance to that music in Jamaica, but in the 50s, our music there was calypso, which come from Trinidad. And we took calypso and mixed it with some of the rhythm and blues and turned it into ska. So part of the roots of ska music is from America, and ska music is American rhythm and blues and Jamaican calypso, and it went from there. That's where ska come from. We used to listen to men like Smiley Lewis, Joe Turner, Roscoe Gordon, and all these guys in the 50s, and we were influenced. I was influenced by Roscoe Gordon because he played a downbeat boogie. Roscoe Gordon is an American black singer, and I was influenced by him. Not only me, but other guys during that time was influenced by him because it was very popular, the boogie-woogie stuff. And as I said, we mixed the boogie-woogie stuff with calypso, and that's where ska came from. Simple as that.
Onomatopoeic word for the sound that the guitar made. From 1959 onwards, this was all the rage.
Maureen Cleave, who wrote the article, claims that the word came from the scat beat, which seems to nail the matter.
Ding 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 ding. Ska.
Laurel Aitken, is it true? You've been credited with being the godfather of ska music, are you?
That's what they say. That's what they call me, the godfather, yeah.
So then, Laurel, how did you get the reputation of being the godfather of ska?
Well, I don't know. I was doing a show in London, and the man that was doing the MC, just announced, I will bring to you the Godfather of Ska. And the paper, the paper the next day was all over the paper that I was the Godfather of Ska, and it's from there everybody calls me that.
But you do have a big involvement with ska music, yeah?
Yeah, well, I am the man that introduced reggae music, which is the same ska music, to England. And I was the first man to have a Jamaican hit in the Jamaican hit parade in 1949. 1959, sorry.
You're living in Leicester now, Laurel, but you're originally from Cuba.
Well, I left Cuba with my family when I was 11 years old and went to Jamaica.
Soundboys and sonideros alike take on a role akin to a syncretic preacher too, combining pre-contact practices of ancestor worship, etc., here calling out the names of people present and not present, those ailing and passed on, while the crowd stands in rapt attention or dances to the music. A good sonidero never stops talking. His amplified voice booms out over the music, telling us about the song that's playing, about the song that's going to play, improvising odes to the classy beauty of the women at the dance, exhorting wallflowers to get their butts in action, talking about who's at the event and who's elsewhere, on the other side of the border or in another U.S. city. Chase Clayton.
Agarren su parejita. Ya lo escuchaste, se llama el gallo Mascaradote. Vámonos. Vámonos, Vicky. Vámonos con sabor. Con todo y gallitos, compadre. Ándale. Venga ese sabor. Ritmo. Ándale con sabor. Venga ese ritmo suave. Ahí va. Oye, ahí está el sabor.
Clayton speculated on the subgenre cumbias rebajadas as a major influence on DJ Screw in Houston, down-pitching cumbia records a good 3 decades before. This turned out to be inaccurate, as cumbias rebajadas and chopped and screwed actually sprung up contemporaneously. The first rebajado-style tapes were released in the early 1990s. This was a spark for me, though.
La cumbia colombiana, yo creo que llega a Monterrey a través de los discos definitivamente. No atreviéndome a definir como un año exacto, yo creo que debe ser entre finales de los 60s y principios de los 70s, de 2 puntos claros, a través de la Ciudad de México y a través de Houston, Texas.
Sí, cuando estábamos tocando en las fiestas, 15 años, bodas, aquí poníamos la trompeta, anunciábamos, nos venían a contratar aquí a la casa, ¿verdad? Y ahí les tocábamos todo el día. La boda pues que es allá arriba de la loma, allá por aquellas casitas, pues hay badoeñas hasta allá, mire, hasta aquellas casitas que se ven allá rosas. Hasta allá íbamos, ahí veníamos en la noche bajando las veredas. Yo llegué aquí de Zacatecas, ¿verdad? Esa es mi historia, pero yo llegamos aquí a Monterrey, yo llegué a los sonidos a tocar allá arriba. Aquí me siento. Esta es la tornamesa. Dije, no, pues un día voy a tener yo un sonido y se me concedió, un día lo tuve y miren dónde estoy yo. Compré muchos discos y aquí estoy, me hice sonidero. Sonido Dueñez, hermano. Pues muchos me los mandó mi hermano de allá del otro lado de Houston. Él los mandaba a pedir a Florida y ahí se los enviaba a una disquera, ¿verdad? Gabriel Dueñez, el mariachi, todos, mire, todos originales. Aquí estamos con nuestro disco que nos otorgó Piles. Sí se ve bien, aquí está, mire. Si la quiere rebajada, pues le pone el pitch. Ahí está rebajada. Pues lo rebajado, fíjese que nosotros la inventamos, ¿no? Fue por un accidente que estábamos tocando en una fiesta, ¿verdad? Y de tanto tocar el Dueñez, ¿verdad? Y se empezó a ranar, se calentó mucho el motorcito el pinito de las velocidades. Se empezó a derretir el broncecito y empecé a tocar rebajado, como aguado, ¿verdad?
Besides the formal similarities, there's an origin myth that bonds cumbias rebajadas and chopped and screwed. there's an emotive connection. It involves tape deck boomboxes. In the mid to late 1980s, when the party ran long, the batteries wore out, and without an AC adapter for house current, the music would distort and slow until it finally ended. This point of the night was a beloved time, and DJs would eventually come to purposely play records at the slower speed to rock the party. The DJing and mixtape techniques of Houston's most popular DJ at the time, Daryl Scott, was an influence as well, with his doubling technique. Doubling involves playing two records, one staggered behind the other, to create a kind of delay effect for emphasis. Later, DJ Michael Price made a boombox that achieved the slowing effect deliberately by applying a screw to the back of the motor. Ironically, this is not the origin of the screwed in Chopped and Screwed. DJ Screw received the nickname because while working on mixes, he would be found dragging a screw across the grooves of a vinyl record that he couldn't use, destroying the ability for the record to be played normally again. But that's another story. Shout out to Lance Walker for the history. Beginning in the late 1980s, Robert DJ Screw Davis Jr. heard the doubling and modified it into a method he would call chopping to repeat phrases, and took then sparingly used dragging or slowing techniques and developed them as the dominant element of hundreds of chopped and screwed mixtapes and albums. These records often included rappers like Big Mo, Lil Flip, Lil Keke, Fat Pat, and South Park Mexican, and many others, often encouraging people who didn't think of themselves as rappers to get on the mic, while he orchestrated sounds in long, sprawling sessions, eventually recorded on the infamous Maxell-manufactured gray tapes. This process forecasts the kind of logic of platforms like SoundCloud, YouTube, etc., communities which are mediated by media. This is ciphering.
It began to grow on you, so
Here's where it all happens at the Southside House. Meet DJ Screw, the man who has created a new sound.
when I first started, I thought it would be alright, but when people got to listen to it and feel it, it really jumped off. I know it was going to be this big.
He DJs at nightclubs, and now he's come up with a new twist on rap music that has taken him from the underground to the mainstream. He slows down rap music, mixes in other rap cuts, and even adds his own rap.
So I'm trying to succeed on thousands of burden me. The devil's beneath me, the blood ain't no stopping me. As soon as I hear people on the other to the energy, I will shoot up the energy.
We can turn this DJ Screw sound into a national sound, because right now it's just throughout the South, and it's new to regions like the West Coast and the East Coast and the Midwest. They're starting to hear about it.
He's already signed with the record label, and his second CD has sold over 100,000 copies. His first CD debuted at number 57 on the charts. DJ Screw even has his own business, Screwed Up Records and Tapes, where he sells his rap creations.
A blessing. That's what it is to me, a blessing. That somebody that really likes my music, sit down, listen to my music, and really play it. Appreciate something that I did that really...
Less than 800 kilometers away from Houston, Texas, a similar mechanical failure to the one that facilitated chopped and screwed music gave birth to the Sonido Dueñas of Monterrey, Mexico's Independencia neighborhood. One day, the motor of DJ Jabril Dueñas' sound system began overheating, and the Colombian cumbia records he played, sent to him by his brother in Houston, began to slow and crawl. But the crowd loved it. Hence, the dawn of the rebajada style. Rebajar means decreased, but in other contexts also means degraded or discounted. While DJ Screw relished in the capacities in terms of recording length, as well as the hiss, fuzz, and dynamics of cassettes, recording mixes from his distinctive DJ sets direct to tape, a parallel development was happening amongst the fans of this genre from nearby Mexico. Similarly to the AAVE linguistic turn of negatives into positives, which is seen in cases like blues, jazz, the funk, hip-hop, rock and roll, and other genres, the rebajadas demarcated what would be a beloved genre, particularly by youth in the barrio who would create their own dance crews and battle one another. Today, labels like Texas-based Peligrosa, led by Principe Q, produce the popular scrumbia genre of dance music. And many cumbias rebajadas mixes and online videos will include references to being screwed, or even draw tongue-in-cheek visual parallels between the purple chicha morada drink of Peru and that of lean, the codeine syrup beverage made iconic by DJ Screw and others, also known as scissorp or perp, for its purple color and syrupy texture, respectively.
Mexican hat dance that we used to do in school. That's all it is. Can a nigga blood walk and y'all don't say, I remember everybody was talking about gangsters don't dance, we boogie. Remember nobody on the West was dancing no videos? We went on Soul Train and got the there was new shit spinning, dapping, elbow, turn around, slide off, all syncopated.
Me parece que te vi bailando un día, me parece que te vi muy zaramulla, en la taza de la tierra mía, bailando cumbia, bailando cumbia.
Ya no estoy aquí, I'm no longer here, a 2019 film by Fernando Frias de la Parra, uses the Colombia Cumbias Rebajadas scene of Monterrey as the wellspring of a story about organized crime, immigration, coming of age, and more. MySpace features prominently in it, pointing to the connections between this subculture and that of online social networks in the early 2000s, at the dawn of the social media era.
She's hot on her heel. Cool, but that's what. Wow! And she's hot on her heel.
There's only one real solution to this mess. A stray Christmas tree?
A Koopa tail! Oh no, Luigi! We gotta get rid of this trash before it turns me all the way into a Koopa! Wow! And she's hot on her heel.
Among early YouTube videos that paralleled the chopped and screwed approach was the subculture known as YouTube poop. It stems, according to Know Your Meme, from a video called I'd Say He's Hot on Our Tail, which appeared on YouTube not long after Google bought the site in 2006. It features clips of the Super Mario Bros. Cartoon cut up, rearranged, scrambled, and modified, including the slowing down and pitching down of particular moments, for emphasis or surreal psychedelic effect. Why make what could be seen as subpar, abrasive, nonlinear gibberish content like YouTube poop? The reasons range from post-ironic appreciation to displays of virtuosity to the search for a new aesthetic and a community with whom it resonates. It also is a preemptive dump on an emerging platform's utopian rhetoric, an incipient form of subversion. Popular user-generated content like YouTube poop has been constantly threatened, demonetized, or shut down because of copyright infringement. Yet it has also always attracted more users to the network, who inevitably end up on the conventional monetized content. Some content makers are given a ramp to reach a platform, others have to jump, or even fling themselves with no guarantee of landing safely. If it's a platform, one can stage dive.
Okay guys, we've cleaned out the refrigerator. I think we're just about ready to build the perfect pizza. Pizza! P-I-Z-Z-A. Pizza! Did I happen to say I want pizza? I want pizza! Hey! Are you ready to play?
In 2010, we see a slowed down and distorted version of Gimme Pizza, a rap song from a Full House-era Olsen Twins video, giving the lyrics new and for some creepy metaphorical connotations. That same year, Nit Pitzinger released an audio version of Justin Bieber's You Smile, slowed down 800%, which found its way to YouTube, often with purple imagery or text, likely a reference to Purple Drank, Lean. Pitzinger made his track with the software created by Paul Nasca, but his approach has a predecessor in the work of indigenous musician and composer Jim Wilson. His God's Cricket Chorus, 1992, consists of 2 tracks of audio, one of crickets chirping at a regular speed and another slowed down to the human lifespan, supposedly based on a cricket's average lifespan. True or embellished, Wilson's claim about the speed of a lifespan points to esoteric knowledge, the idea that locked within existing phenomenon is information that can be accessed through special techniques, as in Gnostic mysticism or in earlier avant-garde methods like John Giorno's cut-up method.
It occurred because I had a number of sheets of newspapers, some British newspapers, American newspaper published in Paris, and some other things that happened to be lying on my desk, and I took a Stanley blade and cut through them, and these little bits and pieces looked so amusing to me that I started jiggling them around as one would in a collage.
It all points to how meanings may be intentionally hidden in the process of altered encodings, a tactic that would take on practical use as YouTube became popular as a depository for full-length films, movies, and other copyrighted material, leading some uploaders to note in the description box that viewers should play at 1.25x speed to bypass YouTube's takedown algorithms. Coded language can allow one to evade or survive under an oppressive force. Saboteurs don't merely destroy the machine, they're intimate with its mechanisms. It isn't a wrench hurled into the machinery so much as a way, as its etymology suggests, of walking noisily. The sabot is the classic wooden clog. As algorithms have become better at detecting copyrighted content, more elaborate YouTube countermeasures have been improvised, cutting a thing into small pieces, adding watermarks or silence at the beginning or end, etc. But then, speed changes were cued to a particular trigger, usually recurring elements of the content, akin to a drinking game. Migos bad and bougie, but every yeah makes the video more distorted.
I'm always hanging with shooters. I be posted somewhere secluded. Still be playing with pots and pans. Call me Quavo Ratatouille. Run with this, call me boo. When I'm on stage, call me boo. Ice on my neck, on the coolest. How about the suicide with the booze? I pull up. How about with all of the drugs in the cooler? I'm cooking, I'm whipping into a rocker, let it lock up. I gave it 10 racks, I told her go shop and spend it all at the pop-up. These bitches, they fucking so thinking they bustin' for Instagram, get your clout up. Yeah, that way. Float on the track like a Segway. Yeah, that way. I used to trap out of Subway. Yeah, that way. Young nigga trap with the AK. Yeah, that way. Big Dyke, get it, don't mess it, cray. Raindrop, drop top, smoking, no cooking, no hot pot. Cooking on your bitch, yeah, that. Cooking up dope in the crock pot. We came from nothing to something, nigga. I don't let nobody pull the trigger. Call up the gang and they come in the gang. Grab me a river, get you a shot. Bad and bullshit, bad. Cooking up dope with a booze. My niggas are savage, ruthless. We got better than 100 rounds too. My bitch is bad and bullshit, bad. Cooking up dope with a booze. My niggas are savage, ruthless. We got better than 100 rounds too. Yeah. Strap to the ball, hey, play. Think we just want you to sweat, but making it close. Switch my hoes and the flows. Switch my fuck and the clothes. Switch my shit and gonna blow. Ooh. Now she wants to want a crew. Cause the money come out of the roof. Just a rocket, we got no roof. Wait, we got rock. Fuck, 58. All of these niggas, they hate. Try to hide you through the gate. No, go to cut it away. So much money in these race. Got 100,000 in your face. Just like they raising the safe. Her today. She got to me like she know me. Go to sleep in the jacuzzi. Waking up to the TV. Trying to like you see. Getting at you in the pussy.
At this point, the cat and mouse element becomes more of an afterthought, and the videos strain towards esotericism, new ways of working, the production of new culture with subversion built in. Sabotage, innovation, and evasive maneuvers blend. Rather than introduce subversion lyrically, now it can be done through pre-existing material. The platform's limits encourage it. These tactics also have a heritage. John Oswald's arrhythmic experiments in plunderphonics, as he described them in a 1985 essay, Audio Piracy as a Compositional Prerogative. In 1988, he released a track with a sample of Dolly Parton's The Great Pretender, getting progressively slower. That same year, as John McDonnell recounted in a 2008 post on Guardian, Morcia, a DJ from Curaçao, played a 33 RPM dance hall record at 45 RPM, and the bubblin' genre began.
socializa y solo para
She would later make music with MCs Pester and Pret, whose political lyrics made them a target of police censorship. Vaporwave appeared in 2011, building off of James Ferraro, Ramona Xavier, Chuck Person, and others, but also using DJ Screw's techniques, mutating corporate music intended to create docile consumers into a new genre. The question remains, though, what's next? What's left? New codes and strategies must be continually produced as the powers that be catch on.
White people, y'all don't know what y'all be talking about, but you be confidently loud and wrong.
Dude, we love slowed and reverb songs so much.
No sleeper seats, that's a mattress.
The slowed and reverb phenomenon refers to the remixing style in which one will slow down a song to anywhere between 80 and 90% speed and manipulate the acoustic environment of the audio. One of the originators of this sound is the producer Slater. What's your real name?
Slater.
When you slow down a normally upbeat song, like 20 Minutes by Lil Uzi, this puts the song in a totally different context. The slowed pace gives it a more personal sense of sadness. Suddenly the phrase, "I said girl, why you keep calling," seems less like a playful question.
I said girl, why you keep calling?
And more like a hopeless uncertainty.
I said girl, why you keep calling?
Part of what makes music so powerful is its creation of expectations. Slowing a song down that we already know and love flips our expectations and gives us a new, more introspective outlook on the work, while still maintaining enough familiarity to activate our brain's reward systems. What's your favorite slowed and reverb remix?
You really try to gentrify Chopped and Screwed. I know you don't know who DJ Screw is, but I guarantee you Slater is not the inventor of slowed and reverb. This is called Chopped and Screwed. Okay? DJ Screw, Houston, Texas, rest in peace, is the one who's the originator of this. You talking about originator? This was originated before you were born. Lil Uzi, Slater, bless Lil Uzi, he ain't got nothing to do with this. I don't know who Slater is, but he is not DJ Screw. You just spent all this time editing and putting in graphics and motion graphics to not even know what you're talking about. How does it feel? And she was just, hey, did you know Slater, the reverb, and 89% Abigail, Hannah, Madison. Shut up. Shut up. You don't know. Huh? You don't know, Mama. No, you did not. Slater did not. This has been around for my whole life. I'm 37. I've been hearing Screw music as long as I can remember. Now, I'm also from Texas, El Paso, but it counts. Just say, I like this. I like this. Here's why I like this. Don't go originator. And this girl could get a job at Complex or something like that and be confidently wrong on a national level. Just say, I like this. I don't know who started it. I don't know much about it, but G. Willikers, I enjoyed this. Just say that, okay? Just say that. Okay, I looked up who Slater is. I know this white man is not who she... Not when DJ Screw... Not when the whole screwed up clique... I know you... White person gave white person credit for black person's thing. That is unusual. That is surprising. That is sarcasm.
As recently as 2020, the audio phenomenon of slowed and reverb has proliferated all The audio phenomenon of slowed and reverb has proliferated all over YouTube, TikTok, and other platforms. The producer, a native Houstonian who goes by Slater, has achieved millions of views and inspired hundreds of copycat producers with his slowed-down, spaced-out versions of popular rap, indie, and pop songs, with methods that can be quickly duplicated in free audio editing software like Audacity and various smartphone applications. Despite this, Slater maintains that his audio techniques are more involved, but he protects the specifics as a kind of secret recipe. This secrecy around technique is found in many other genres before him, including hip-hop DJing, the practice of soaking your vinyl records in a bathtub or sink to make removing the label easier so you can keep the song ID a secret, for example. And it functions as a way to develop and push your signature sound. In the past, this would also be a way to distinguish yourself from the many sound makers that could come trying to take your shine. Despite the similarities, he doesn't call it chopped and screwed. Many DJs, after Screw's passing, in reverence and respect, will call their own works in his style chopped and slowed, chopped never slopped, etc. I always felt that I shouldn't touch chopped and screwed music, he says. 1, it's not really screwed if it's not by Screw. True. 2, the chops are sacred to the culture, and not everybody can imitate it, so I would never want to even try to. I'm just glad I'm able to bring it to a wider audience. In the party setting, embracing the slowness caused by mechanical failures may be a refusal to give up the space of celebration, expression, and intimacy. In the online media space, the manipulation of speed and sequence is a rejection of the traditional modes of viewership, traditional ways of making content. If, because of data mining, our use of platforms like YouTube collapses work and leisure, then could producing content that is anathema to its intended use also be resistance, despite its inevitable recuperation? Is there a relationship between these processed and manipulated media examples and the workers' slowdowns or the enslaved person's breaking of tools, albeit without a particular goal in mind and couched in privilege? What is clear is that as long as there's a way to do something, there will be a, quote, wrong way, and that may be embraced by those who are told they are wrong, or that they don't deserve rights because of factors beyond their control, sometimes at the expense of those who created the restrictions.